ready to transition into not less even exciting topic, unlocking longevity, holistic approach to genomics, lifestyle, wellness, and precision health. The panel will be moderated by Rachel McArthur, MENA healthcare journalist, editor, Digital Inc. Media. And here, who is going to join her as her panelist? Alex Diaconu, co-founder and CEO, AiGIA Health. Varun Kapur, CEO of Vyana. Dr. Hinda Daggag, Director of Health Industries Consulting, PwC. Professor Dr. Zahid Haque, Secretary General, World Sport Alliance. Please help me to welcome panel on stage.
Hello, hello. Hello. How's everyone doing today? Hello. Woohoo! Hey, everybody, how's it going? Thank you so much for being here today with us. And thank you, Julia, for the introduction. Right, so for those of you who know me, you know my style. I go right into it. Introductions, I feel, got all the names. Everybody's on LinkedIn. Their expertise speak for themselves, so we'll get right into it. And also, you know, considering that we're talking about genomics, lifestyle, wellness, and precision health, good luck, panel, 30 minutes. It's quite a large task. So anyway, first of all, let's get into it. Defining longevity itself. In today's context, longevity isn't just about adding years to life, but also adding life to years. For example, if I don't want to retire at 65 or whatever, I'd like to be able to continue working without feeling knackered by the end of the day. So can you guys help me? So how do each of you define longevity in that context, in the context of your work, basically? And I'll start with Dr. Hinda to define it from, the genetic and precision health perspective.
Okay, sure. Hello, hi everybody, and thank you for the invitation actually to speak today. So I think the terminology of longevity has been used and perhaps overused in the last couple of years, I would say, and we do have that understanding that there is a difference between a lifespan and a health span, and I guess when we're talking about longevity, we're really talking about how do we reduce the gap between the lifespan, which is sort of how many years we're living, and the health span in terms of how many of those years are actually healthy years. And right now, that gap is more than 10 years, I believe, and that's what we want to work on. Not just from the perspective, I hope that it's, I'm not being biased just because of my genetic background, but really when we talk about longevity or precision health, meaning tailoring sort of the approach, right, to our health on an individual basis, we cannot not talk about genetics. So it is one of the fundamental pillars that we have to look at. That does not mean that it is the most important thing. However, I think that our genomic blueprint does really affect or has an influence in terms of our aging process, how we age, how long we can potentially live, how we respond to interventions, to medications. So it does play a big part. Nevertheless, I think we should never take it out of the context, and we do need to look at a larger ecosystem of other elements that are also influencing the lifespan or the healthy living, and we can talk about that a little bit later.
Great. So speaking actually of other elements, now, Your Excellency Professor Dr. Zahid, you're Secretary General at the World Sport Alliance. So let's talk about the sports angle maybe, and within longevity, how do you personally define longevity?
Thank you, Rachel. Good morning to all. Thank you for inviting me today here. I'm honored to be here today. It's definitely, genomics is related with the sports medicines, is not only limited with the sports medicine, it's all over all the medicines is including the genomics. So nowadays, because this genomics is not only limited with the cancer treatments, so in sports, especially in this gene analysis and the gene technologies, we're using for the strengthening of the strongest and strengthening of the athletes. We're more focused on the athletes' performance, like if you go for this, like one kind of gene, is ACTN3 and ACE genes that is responsible for the musculoskeletal system and your genetical analysis. So, that this genetical analysis, what we find that this either treatment, how your treatment will be under this genomics, so you can do this treatment, therapeutics, your prognosis, diagnosis. So now we can find it from the genetical analysis. So, and also the precision medicines also we are preferring in the sports medicine because like example, all of the wearable devices now, it can give you some, like some identifications that you are going in a which stage, like some chronic diseases, whatever you have, like cardiac disease, neurological diseases. So we have the most efficient devices nowadays so that we can, depends on that. It's like a primary indicators for your health services. Thank you.
Amazing. So Varun, wearables, wellness, etc. You're as CEO of Vyana. I'm sure you have many takes on longevity, but what is it to you within your current context right now?
Yeah, thank you, and good morning, everybody. I'm going to approach this more from the holistic lifestyle wellness angle, whereby I would like to start asking you a question. How many of you are familiar with the concept of ikigai? Hands up, if anybody's familiar with it. Quite a few. And the concept of blue zones on this planet, right? Okay, quite a few. So blue zones, you have 5 areas in the world that is proven that the people live there the longest, right? And ikigai is another kind of Japanese philosophy, which is talking about the reason for being. And a lot of what these both have in common is the concept of community. And so community essentially is proven to extend longevity, right? So taking it to the core first principles, right? We are, as human beings, coming from communities, and we thrive on communities. So let's take it back a second, right? So what's community 1.0? 1.0 is all of us family, friends coming together, hanging out around the dining table, playing in the parks. Then tech came on board, and you got community 2.0, which is like the Facebooks, Instagrams, people hanging out online. Then you have community 3.0, which is more like the Web3, the metaverse, people hanging out in all these different areas, right? But how are we actually gonna take advantage of where this whole thing is going? And where this all really ties in together is experiences. Experiences is proven as well to really empower your holistic wellness and take you to the next level. And that's where longevity really kicks in, and that's what we're doing at Vyana. It's like we are empowering the grassroots communities, the wellness providers, the solopreneurs, the entrepreneurs, to really take their experience offering to the next level, and most importantly, putting in the right financial incentives to take that to the next, to make it happen. So that's where we're coming in. I think we're really excited. We've been part of the wellness ecosystem here in Dubai for the last 20 years, and the biggest challenge we're finding is the fragmentation in the industry between the wellness providers, the hospitals, the clinics, and the whole ecosystem, and that's what we're bringing together. And that's what we feel is the real secret sauce to longevity.
Amazing, amazing. When you brought up the whole metaverse thing, and I was just thinking, 2 years ago as a journalist, everybody was convincing me that we'd all be in the metaverse by 2025. Where's that gone? Anyway, technology guy, Alex. Right, so yes, where has the metaverse gone? Let's forget about longevity. No, I'm only joking. In terms of what you're doing, what's your definition? I think your mic might be off, yeah.
It's working. Okay. So I invite all of you to zoom out and look at the world, and we understand that, for example, North American populations are very different from South American, from Asians or from Europeans. Even in this region, if we look at Emirati and Saudi, there is important differences. And if we look at women and men, we see deep differences, but yet, in this region, in MENA, only 30% of the drugs are researched taking women in consideration. And yet, we are used to take a medication and then being told, oh, it's not working, take this other one. 40% of the drugs, actually over 40% of the drugs, do not work. So the right approach should start from understanding that each of us is different. And we need to work on the starting point, which is research. Research should be personalized. And care and treatment should be personalized, and prevention should be personalized. And data and AI is personal too. Yes, we talk about personalized treatment starting with genomics. Genomic mapping is the foundation, but then we add microbiome, then we add metabolomic, then we add lab tests, then we add vitals, and so many more. I was talking with Muhammad outside and saying that 80% of the data is not at the healthcare provider. 80% of your data is actually around you, but not taken into consideration. So what do? We need to understand that there are some big trends happening in the world, and aside from the aging population that Mr. Galea was talking earlier, the second one is the shift from care to prevention. And based on that, there is another trend, which is a shift from primary ownership of the healthcare provider over data to a co-ownership model in which the individual is at the core. So each of you will take ownership of your data, and this will be the foundation upon which personalized medicine will be built. And if data is personal and you will take ownership, AI must be personal. So you will be empowered by your own personal AI copilot, which will autonomously manage the relationship between you, healthcare providers, pharma research, and other organizations.
Thank you about your points regarding local data. I believe, as somebody who lives here, the UAE is doing great work. I mean, we're baby steps, but it's doing great work with the Emirati Genome Program, first assessing the citizens of the United Arab Emirates. And, you know, the Department of Health is going to be looking at various factors such as, you know, rare disease, medication, how you respond to medication, etc. And it is baby steps, but I think it is something that we're doing here that's really, really exciting and really, really important. Your Excellency, I actually wanted to ask you, if you were tomorrow advising the Department of Health Abu Dhabi on, you know, the Emirati Genome Program and the connection of sports and sports medicine to it, can you perhaps maybe give me an example of how sports medicine strategies might be utilized in the general population to reduce chronic diseases or enhance the quality of life? And, you know, we can all say exercise, do this, do that, wear your watch, make sure you're getting this in. But are there any really exciting sports medicine strategies right now that we're not paying attention to enough in longevity and within the medtech space?
Thank you, Rachel. It's a very interesting questions. Yeah, actually, I told previously that there is nothing specific with the sports medicine. It's just a subdivision of the medicinal sites. So if you talk about the chronic diseases, like heart diseases, neurological diseases, or arthritis, osteoarthritis, this type of chronic diseases, that is really I cannot say that it is a treatable, but we can take the measurement, like in the, if you say the precision medicines nowadays is depend on the personalized medicine, protective, preventive, and participatory medicines. So what exactly we can do that just simplify our lifestyle, not in the medication, what our Alex already told, that all the medications cannot work like that, but the term longevity, it means amazing that everybody wants to live in this world. Nobody wants to die. So that what we can take the longevity measurements means how can I be good myself? I can be a own doctor by myself. Nobody needs to be a doctor, but I can be a doctor. I can maintain my life in a nice way, in the easiest way. Example, that if you have got the diabetes mellitus, then you can use the medications, insulin, whatever you like. But you can also maintain your lifestyle in a, we call 3D, like drugs, daily life, and your exercise activities. So 3 activities you can do to reduce your insulin level to, more active in your lifestyle. So sports thing, the same thing, that what we are concerning about the athletes, that we need to think for the athletes that what medications and what the measurement is good for them, like therapeutic or diagnostic purposes. We do now the genetical tests, because we need to see the performance from the genes, that how they can active, how their gene is strongest, especially for the musculoskeletal injuries. We are more focused on that. So the longevity, it depends on other modules that you can suppress that. So in the sports, we are concerning about our athletes. So like especially I can give an example that some medications is very essential for your health. Example, like who got the blood pressure, we call the BP high or low, whatever. They need to use the beta blocker. It's a very common drugs. But when you use these drugs in the athlete's body, actually it is a doping and anti-doping comes. It is essential drugs for the life, but we cannot suggest our athletes to use this beta blocker. And other nutrient products also, multivitamins also, we are very protective for this anti-doping also, because I am also working in the anti-doping committee of the ISSF and also Asian Shooting Confederations. So you can maintain your life in a different way. You can go for the pathological tests, you can go for the consultations, but you need to keep yourself active. How you can do your lifestyle, just good food habits, lifestyle, exercise, that can influence your longevity. Thank you.
Oh man, I gotta exercise and eat well. Damn it. All right, Dr. Hinda. Now, His Excellency mentioned precision health, and you've been deeply involved in shaping the genomics landscape in the GCC. It's been a privilege to interview you over the years. So, what's the latest? How's the region embracing precision medicine, and what are the primary challenges and opportunities you're seeing in integrating genomic data into routine healthcare to promote longevity? I mean, I know insurers don't like it, so how do we make it holistic?
Okay, so maybe just before getting into that, I want to actually pick up on one of the points discussed earlier, which is, I mean, relevant to what we're discussing, right? Obviously, we've been discussing the Emirati Genome Program for a few years now. I think it was first launched back in 2019. And it's now that we can sort of really see the different outcomes and the different implementations, from all of the data that's been generated. But I think one very important point that also is sort of connected to longevity is once you have this huge amount of population-based data, what we can also do is leverage the AI-enabled, really, analytics that we can start looking into different patterns of the data. We can start looking into trends, and we can start really isolating the individuals that are perhaps at high risk of chronic diseases, whether it's diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular, whatever it is, and then taking those individuals and starting to really tailor specific programs, specific treatments for them. And this is where, I guess, the precision medicine, but also that longevity part comes in. So we are coming in much earlier than before. It's not just about the treatment. You're catching them much earlier. But I think where the challenge is sort of the adoption process. Why is the adoption of this lagging? Where is the problem? And like you said, one of the issues is also the insurance. Who's really responsible for our health? Are we expecting too much from the healthcare systems? Who is supposed to pay for it? And why isn't the uptake quicker? So I think these are some of the questions that we have to ask ourselves. And I know that the challenges are well known. It's sort of trying to find the solutions where the focus needs to be. Having said that, it does not take away from how much we've progressed and how much has been done specifically in the UAE and in connection to the Emirati Genome Program when we think about the different flagship initiatives that have come out, based on the EGP, something like the premarital screening, which now has become mandatory, and the only reason why this is now possible is because of the EGP, because it is the first country that actually has a premarital screening that is based on genetic analysis, on your genetic data, rather than anything else. There's been a lot of talk about also implementing similar approach to newborn screening. We're seeing a much bigger uptake of also the clinical implementation of genomics and providing those clinical services to patients who need it. And all of that is really built based on EGP. And another one is pharmacogenomics, because that's also a big one. So, I don't want to take away from all the achievements that really we can see. However, that does not mean that there aren't challenges that everybody is trying to find the answers to.
Of course, and hopefully this creates some conversation here later on. Maybe there's a partnership or two that could emerge, you never know. Varun, now, talking about Vyana, now it focuses, if I'm not mistaken, it focuses on bridging communities to unlock wellness and longevity, is that correct? But funnily enough, and I know we have some investment panels coming up, but your career has primarily been in the venture capital industry, right? So bringing up what Dr. Hinda is talking about, finding the right opportunities and whatnot, how are investors, startups, and innovators in the Middle East, North Africa potentially, looking to address the gaps as it relates to wellness, community, and tech? Are there any trends you can shed some light on?
Sure. Yeah, I've spent most of my career in the venture capital industry as an investor and founder, and I keep going back and forth. That's startup life for you. But when you look at venture capital and many startups here and probably some investors, when you looked at VC 15 years ago, it was all about marketplaces, right? You had the Kareems, you had the Souks. Amazon came and acquired Souk. And then the next trend was, a lot of it was fintech. And, in the late in 2018 to 2021, it's all about fintech. And now we're seeing a resurgence and actually a massive, massive explosion of interest and investment in the healthcare industry. Healthcare, which includes everything we're talking about, including longevity. And as an investor, when we look at something called TAM, right, the total addressable market, and the market is just massive and it's growing at like 15% per year, compounded annually. So if you look at that, it's like $6 trillion mark, $6 trillion globally, going to $8 trillion in the next couple of years. And the UAE alone is going to $3-4 billion market. If you just look at the VC market, you have like $2 billion of investments that have happened in MENA just last year. So it's massive. There's so much capital from family offices, from sovereign wealth funds, and the VCs all coming into this industry. And the question is like, okay, how do we kind of position ourselves as a startup, to capture that capital? Because at the end of the day, it's all about, it's a lot of the solutions that longevity technologies or startups are offering. You need substantial capital to do that. And a lot of this is also reflected in the public markets. If you look at year to date, the two fastest growing public company stock prices that exploded in the last 2 months has been health tech companies. You've got Tempest AI And you got Hims and Hers. Hims and Hers is a precision medicine medical business, the US, and Tempest AI is another kind of healthcare company. So you're seeing this happen on the private markets and the public markets. So that's just a proof of point. Like, there is a lot of capital coming in, and it's our job here as a community in the healthcare space to kind of position ourselves for that. So I'm really excited. We are building our business to support the wellness businesses. We're building a B2B SaaS platform to support the wellness providers because it's a highly fragmented market. And the question is, how do we get everybody to win with the right financial incentives?
Amazing. So Alex, looking at tech, so Varun just pointed out it was, however many years ago, it was the Kareems, etc., the unicorns, then the fintech, then the health tech, and I'm always kind of a bit anxious. I'm like, oh, are we going to disappear within 2 years? Is medtech going to change to something else world? So just curious to know, given your work in AI, there's been a lot of talk about the ethical considerations, regulatory considerations. It's a political tool at the moment and in other times. So I'm just curious to know, so that we can remain and so that medtech and health tech can remain, we need to obviously not annoy people or regulators, right? So I'm just curious to know, in terms of the ethical and regulatory considerations, is there anything else that we need to keep in mind apart from the regular conversations that we have in terms of AI-driven technologies? The data, who owns it, etc.
First of all, I don't understand regulation of a technology. You cannot regulate electricity.
Some people want to do.
Yes, I look forward to having a discussion with Maria later because I can share my perspective as European-born on what's happening in the EU. So yes, I believe that we should regulate specific use cases when it comes to AI, but not AI as a whole. The second thing is we don't understand how AI works deep down. And I'm sharing this from the perspective of a company working on super advanced quantum-grade autonomous AI copilots. It's black box inside. We don't know how it works. So how can we regulate something that my engineers don't understand how it works? Because the very foundation of quantum probabilities, the types of algorithms that we use when we develop, let's say, inside of our infrastructure, are unpredictable. So we also need to take this into consideration and to be very realistic on our expectations. So sorry for any authorities being present here, but I believe that we will need to redefine regulatory principles, and yes, we will need AI tools to govern over AI. It's not about regulation, but creating AI augmented tools to oversee how AI works, especially in the very sensitive domain of AI. And again, I want to stress one more thing before we get to the closing remarks. I was mentioning 80% of the data being outside of the healthcare providers. And do you know how much of the remaining 20% is used? 3%. So actually, 99.4% of the whole data, health data, is locked and not used. So imagine that once amazing projects like the Emirati Genome Project, this amazing amount of value that is available already and creating huge impact here will be further unlocked, and the things that we are going to learn. Let regulation protect us, but make sure that regulation should not choke innovation.
Wise words. Right, so we've got a couple of minutes left, and I just wanted to kind of wrap up really, because considering we have international organizations, consultancies, startups, technology platforms on stage, I wanted to end by asking, given that obviously as well that you're all from different parts of the world or you work on different territories, and we do have quite an international audience in attendance, where do you see the biggest opportunities for cross-border or public-private collaboration to speed up the innovation and longevity? And also, I mean, if you had a view, what would you like to see in the next 5 years to advance longevity worldwide? So, Dr. Hinda, can I come to you as our UAE representative?
Sure, sure. And I think I'm just going to build on what Alex was saying. I think the government support plays such an important role in terms of whether it's driving the medtech industry, whether it's driving the population genomic programs, whether it's longevity, precision medicine, all of that. And I think it's so important to sort of, again, recognize, I guess, the advantages and leverage on the advantages that we have in the UAE, but also recognize the challenges and see how we can overcome them. I really love the fact that the government, whether it's from the regulatory perspective, if we think about it, whether it's DOH or whether it's DHA, when you look at the different initiatives that have been set up with DOH, for example, setting up the first standards for healthy longevity clinics from the perspective of licensing, the first in the world, and that has to mean something. It has to stand for something. If we think about Dubai and DHA also in terms of their quality of life strategy and understanding what longevity means, not just from that sort of medical aspect or from the healthcare system, but actually as a whole city, what can all of us do and how does the city need to be set up for you to drive longevity? So these are amazing initiatives. Again, there are some challenges maybe specifically for the medtech world or the medtech companies that are coming in when we think about data standardization or data harmonization, when we think about data access and what can be done from in that regards also, when we think about the regulatory maybe complexities and challenges, who can help all of these newcomers and startups and companies that want to set up here, and contribute, who can really help them and tell them where do they need to go, what do they need to do. So, there are still few things that need to sort of be resolved. But I think right now what we can do is leverage on all the benefits that we have.
Your Excellency, your final notes.
Thank you so much. My final note actually is regarding the longevity BG. We must take the newer technology, which is available now, and we must go for the latest sciences in the medical technology, medical health, medical science. We must adopt those issues with us, and the regulatory issues also. We must be careful about that, and also we need to take care of the regulatory authorities' decisions, that how we can make more latest technologies and health issues with the proper authorities. Thank you.
Fabulous. Varun?
I mean, just an example of public-private partnerships in the UAE. I'll give you two. One is the Dubai Fitness Challenge, happening for like past 5 to 7 years. Just last year, there were around 2.7 million people participate in that, and like 400 partners from studios and gyms and all sorts. So that's one really fantastic program by the Dubai Tourism that it took through. And then this smaller version was last week, Abu Dhabi Tourism Culture Authority partnered up with a number of local providers and did something, a wellness festival called the Kayan Wellness Festival on the beaches of Abu Dhabi. And that was another fantastic PPP project. So you're seeing government here doing amazing, amazing grassroots initiatives, activities to really engage the local market, the citizens to take the health and wellness to the next level. So I'm super excited, having grown up here, that now it's really coming online. So. Yeah.
That's such a good point about Dubai Fitness Challenge. If you're newly visiting us, look it up, Dubai Fitness Challenge. That's a really, really good one. Alex?
It's already several years since I've been looking and experiencing in the region, and I can tell you two things I believe that makes this region so special. Is the vision and the courage. And I totally agree with what Steve said previously, that may it be Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Riyadh, or Doha, building from here, I see it more as a launchpad for global businesses. And I will leave with the crazy vision behind AiGIA Health. What if, instead of the classic model in which we are used for the payer to support only the healthcare provider, each of you would be also paid to take care of yourselves? What if I told you that it's totally sustainable and achievable, and this will happen? What if we build on this vision starting from this region?
And you know what? It's a great point that you bring up, because the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for example, and the UAE are really spearheading this, and they're really encouraging people to, and they even, I believe at Davos recently, the KSA, they did say, okay, build locally, and then you can, take it wherever. So do try and connect with individuals from Saudi and the UAE who are in attendance today, because there's a lot to learn about this region. So thank you so much. A lot to fit in within 30 minutes. If you'd like to have a chat with our speakers, they'll be around throughout the day, hopefully. So I'd just like to thank one more time His Excellency Professor Dr. Zahid Haque, who's the Secretary General at World Sports Alliance, Dr. Hinda Daggag, who's the Director of Health Industries Consulting at PwC, Alex Diaconu, CEO and co-founder at AiGIA Health, and last but not least, Varun Kapur, CEO of Vyana. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
And thank you, Rachel.